Good afternoon, everyone. Special, what day is this? Wednesday, Wednesday edition for the launch of Empire of the Undying Sun. Let me load that up real quick if I can. There we go. There we are. What is Empire of the Undying Sun, you might ask? Empire of the Undying Sun is the best in horror campaigns for both D&D 5e and 1e. This has been quite a long work, and it's got all sorts of great things, well over 100 monsters. It's got to be over 50 factions. You have darkness in the woods, strange things afoot at night. You have swashbuckling pirate battles, zombie invasions, spirits crying out at night in the howling deserts. You have creatures in jungle that are waiting to tear your flesh apart, ancient ruins, and the dreaded Black Pyramid, a mega dungeon so large that it has to be reformed like a Rubik's Cube in order for your players to achieve their goals. And we are going to go live in just a second. Hey, Damien, thanks for popping in. You have the honor of watching me boomer up the launch to this Kickstarter. So give me 1 second. Yes, I have read the rules. Launch. And okay. We are now live, maybe? Yeah, there we go. Excellent, excellent. So we are now live. Backers beware. Things are going to move quickly. So as we are here, we may have some guests pop in before too long. So Empire of the Undying Sun, in addition to an awesome setting and terrifying locales, what else do we get? Well, we have a new character class called the Empath. And it plays a bit differently from most other classes you would get in D&D. The Empath in and of itself doesn't have any powers, but it can take powers from other. So if you are a heals-oriented empath, you will be able to take the hurts from others if they are missing limbs, if they have diseases. You will be able to take that onto yourself, and with your innate enhanced healing ability, you will be in good shape before too long, assuming you don't overdo it. If you are more of the I like to stab things kind of empath, well, good news. You are able to steal abilities from creatures. Do you find a creature that can camouflage itself perfectly? Well, you can take that ability from it and use it yourself. Are you up against dragons? Well, you may be able to take the dragon's breath weapon and use it back against the beast itself. So there's a lot of fun playabilities in that. We have talent trees, and the talent trees are meant to enhance what you already sort of have. So if you are, let's say you're a cleric, right? So you have a religious background. Well, the talent trees follow 3 different paths for each skill. So with religion, you have the Inquisitor, where you have the ability to seek out which gods are natively antagonistic to yours and find ways to counter them. You could be the Path of the Prophet, which you would get bonuses towards converting people to your god and your worldview. And the other is the Inquisitor, Nobody likes you in your own religion, but you have secret knowledge of your God. And we have extra special guest, the Dungeon Delver.
Hello, Yang. How are you, my friend?
Pretty good. Oh, I see you stopped shaving. You stopped dyeing your hair gray.
Yeah. Yeah, I decided not to frost the tips. That's me there. Um, Doing my best Ryan Gosling cosplay. How are you?
I am good. I am very sleepy, but yet good. Oh my gosh, we have 3 backers already. Just launched. Let's refresh that again. Yes.
Woohoo!
Yes. Awesome. Uh, yeah, so anyone watching, go back it. There's a link pinned in the old Twitter there. Let's see if we can. Nope, that's not what I want. We want this. Nope, this. Yeah, it's closer. All right, we'll use this one. So I'm just going over some of the highlighty features of Empire. Excuse me. So one of the other great things I think everybody is going to have a lot of fun with is the Dream Realm. So the Dream Realm is a place where when you go to sleep at night, you enter the Dream Realm, and it could be your happy place. It could be a place where you're safe with your family and whatnot. But let's say the next morning you and your friends say, "Hey, we both had the same dream. That's crazy, right?" Well, that's because one of you crossed over into the other space in the dream realm. And it is possible for people to cross into others' dreams all over the world. People, whether poor or king, and it's even possible to meet the gods in the dream realm. But the dream realm is not in and of itself a safe place because you can alter the dream realm to look like what you want. You can have abilities like what you want. Let's say your character is a skinny little wizard. Well, he can be the most jack barbarian looking wizard you've ever seen in the dream realm. You can have people fly without magical abilities in the dream realm. Anything is possible. But there are nightmares. Nightmares are creatures that wish to do you harm, and they can haunt you over weeks and months, not allowing you to get a good night's rest. Um, or, should you be an enterprising player, you can become someone else's nightmare. Have you ever wanted to be uh, if you ever wanted to be Freddy Krueger? Well, guess what? You can be. Doing okay there, Bill?
I'm doing
Okay.
fine. I'm absolutely doing fine. I'm actually letting people know
Oh,
about the Kickstarter right
thank you.
now.
Thank you.
So you are quite welcome. And I know there is the first Empire of the Undying Sun Kickstarter on on Kickstarter.
Kickstarter. Yeah.
And what's that thing called where people kickstart their projects? Yang, I swear I had it here just a minute ago. Um, we'll do that, and we'll do this. But this is yes, this is the latest and greatest. Backed. You got 4 for 320 already, Yang.
Yes.
You are just shooting on up there. So
Awesome.
um,
And it's a good thing you mentioned that because some people might have some questions. What's the difference? Why is there a difference? Is there a difference? And the short answer is um, the 5e version. Uh, there was a Kickstarter for it last year.
mhm.
Um, there were a lot of people who were unable to back, sometimes due to uh, my fault, sometimes due to other people's faults. So as I was coming into, um, coming into it, I had always wanted to do a 1E version of this as well, and I had gotten a bit of feedback from the OSR community that said, "It sounds really cool, but we're not down with 5e." So that's perfectly fine because this year, if you wanted 5e and you missed it, it's here again. This is a second chance. And if you wanted an OSR version, well, guess what? We have a AD&D 1E version as well.
Yes, yes, and I am proud to be working on the AD&D conversion for this. Yang and I have been over. He knows that my the writing Bible is, of course, this source material. My construction manual is the Dungeon Master's Guide. So we will be working hand in glove to get this the fit and finish on this. It's going to feel great and play great right next to Against the Giants, Village of Hamlet, Ravenloft, whatever your 1E sensibilities most prefer. This will slot very nicely in with those because we're gonna go through there and we're gonna twist some knobs and we're gonna adjust some dials and we're gonna hit it out of the park on 1E on the 1E AD&D side. That is my strong personal feeling.
I think so too. And for anyone who's out there and they're like, well, what's Bill doing on this? Why aren't you doing it? And the simple fact is, although I have played 1E, I don't consider myself an expert enough in the subject matter to make sure that it doesn't play like a watered down copy of a 5E setting. I want AD&D 1E players to get the full experience. From its get-go, it was designed to feel like a 1E setting in session. So now I want to make sure that we get all those play rules right. And it's not, it's not slapdash. I just write 1E on it. It's actually, if you didn't know that there was a 5E version, you would swear it was written for 1E.
Right, and that was really, when I sat down and I first started taking a look at the notes. I mean, I like when I see 5e stuff and I want to use it for 1e, my head immediately goes to things like, okay, uh, that wisdom save, that's going to become a save versus spells. That dex save, that's that save versus paralyzation or petrification, and that sort of thing. And so, you know, and it's going to be situational. It's because there's a lot of places in 5e, and this is no, this is no edition war from me, but there's a lot of places in 5e adventures that say, you know, um, characters who make a successful investigation check may find X in the room, whereas in AD&D, you go back and you look at a classic module, and it's like careful examination will reveal. So
Yep.
it's not just a matter of converting mechanics. It's a matter of going through and looking at a mechanic and changing it from a mechanic to a tone, and
Yes.
that requires uh, a, a very careful uh, manipulation. It's kind of like, there's times like when you're working on something and you have to tighten down four bolts in corners of something, and you can't just gorilla one down and then gorilla the other down. It'll be out of balance. So in the
Yep.
case of working on this, it's a matter of a delicate touch. You don't have to gorilla those bolts down. You can just finger tight is all you need in a lot of places. And so it's fun to go through a 5e adventure and do that and say, change it from just a hard and fast, look, roll a d20 with advantage and you'll spot the trap, versus the nuance of just putting in the text. If the party is careful, they won't fall through the the carpet covering the pit, you know. So
Shh! Don't tell all the secrets.
won't give away all the secrets. So that is that's a lot of a lot of what I'm doing on it. And it's fun because I get to go back through things, of course, you know, read it 5e and then come back and read it in a mindset of, okay, let's start sliding pieces around a little bit, flipping some armor classes and so on. I'm going to stop babbling and let you talk. It's your baby, Yang.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's it. And I think that when you're, really, if you're going to offer multiple versions of things, you don't want the equivalent of running it through Google Translate. Um, like, yeah, it would still be mostly fine, but there would be parts that feel right. Um, and there's certain things that as a DM, if you're picking up a campaign guide, you just don't want to have to redo everything. It's like if you buy a new car, you expect it to just work. You don't want to have to go and be like, okay, well, I have to replace the doorknob, or the hood's not tightened down. I got to go ratchet those bolts, or it should just work. And to me, if I'm asking someone to pay good money for it, then it had better work right.
Oh, unquestionably, that's a great point there. And I think a lot of now I'm not going to ascribe this to laziness or badness, but I think there's a lot of people who are excited, thrilled by OSR things, and they want to embrace that crowd. They
Mhm.
want that they want that to be something that they can appeal to. So they say, oh well, this is yeah, that you can use this with 1E, and yeah, can I really? How much work have I got? Well, you have to flip the armor class,
Yeah.
and you might want to change it, and even after you do that, you go through a thing, and it's like, well, I still got a lot of work to do. Um, and that's something I absolutely want to avoid. I want a 1E dungeon master to sit down and say, okay, boom, I can start working this into my campaign right now. The first thing I have to do is not build the car.
Exactly, exactly. And that was it. And I think if you were going to be putting things out, um, you have to have a certain level of, um, not to float my own boat, but a certain level of maturity to know when it's like, I don't know that I could do that as well as I want it to be done. And you have to get someone else. And when I thought about it, I was like, okay, well, who's been playing 1E for the last 40 some years? And, I know a guy who wrote modules for Gary Gygax. I mean, you can't get, other than resurrecting Gary from the dead himself, I don't know that I could get a better person to make sure that translation feels right.
Well, thank you, Yang, and I greatly appreciate your confidence in me on this. Um, I'll bring my complete toolkit with me. I'll have everything out there for you, for the audience, for people who back this. You're going to see a tour de force of Yang's absolutely excellent atmospheric and creepy Empire of the Undying Sun setting, with that baked in 1E structure, because that's what I intend to do.
And in addition, um, there is something that I think that kind of makes this a little bit special in that we also have adventure modules that go with the campaign guide, which really help to flush out the regions. And when you're writing a campaign guide, you can't put everything in there. There are size limits to what people will print for you. So you have to sort of uh, edit your ideas down to the core things. But there are certain things like different factions that maybe they appear once and they don't necessarily appear again. So a lot of these adventure modules are designed to explore regions that maybe we touch on but don't spend a lot of time in, with different factions that we want to have a little bit more in-depth experience with that. And there are things that DMs can choose to use at their will. And speaking of adventure modules, you have 3 of them as well.
That is correct. I had a lot of fun writing up those adventure modules. And I, oh gosh, I want to gush about them, but I don't want to spoil them. You guys will just have to see these are adventure modules by yours truly. And again, this is a case where when I was writing these, so to explain the story, I got to tell you a little story about how I kind of got my foot in the door in an official getting paid for it sense. Was 20 years ago now. I worked with a gentleman by the name of Lance Havermail for Necromancer Games, and I wrote half of a module called Elemental Moon, and Lance wrote the other half. And he nattered me for the better part of a year. I want you to write. I want you to write a D&D module with me. I want you to write a D&D module with me. And I was like, I ain't write no 3rd edition stuff, because that was the edition that was it. Not even 3.5, 3rd edition. So finally, he said, "Look, I don't need you to write 3rd edition. We'll take care of the quote unquote edition stuff. Write a 1E module. We'll handle the mechanics. Just bring your A game for 1st edition AD&D. That's what I want. I don't worry about the mechanics." So I did that. He liked it a lot. It got published, and Necromancer took care of the convert stuff. I had to do 1 or 2 things because I had some absolute death trap, insta kill stuff in the module that they came back and were like, could we change this just a little bit? This seems a little bit harsh. And I was like, all right. Not that I ran into that with Yang, but the point is, I worked this from the standpoint of, I'm writing a 1st edition module. It's gonna get converted in the process to, in that case, 3rd edition. But in working for Yang, I wrote 1st edition AD&D modules, and then Yang and I worked on convert where it needed to be tweaked, converting it to 5e. So again, the 3 that I've written are they're 1e modules. If you pick up the 5e version, you're still going to find something tonally that fits a 1e framework.
Yeah, and really for me, a lot of this campaign was trying to bring things back towards the 1E experience, let's say. Not necessarily with mechanics, but certainly in tone. And I think that that's something, while our opinions may differ on the launch of 5E, which I think was a perfectly fine game, as the years went by, Wizards, the settings, the gameplay, it all became softer and softer and nicer. And you need a certain amount of grittiness. It's like the difference between camping and glamping.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
okay, well, if you want to do glamping, that's fine. But they really left the camping end of the player base out to dry. And so this part of this is my attempt to say, let's go back. Let's make it more rugged. Let's make it more deadly. Let's have some darker, less pleasant themes. And I'm hoping that everyone will like it.
I think so, because that was part of my intent when I was working with it, was to get really into the grittier state of of uh, of of ttrpg. And I agree with you now. I've said this before. I feel like 5e at launch was a fine fantasy game. It leaned probably very heavily on Redbox, Menser,
Mhm.
BECME, call it what you will, D&D stylings. um, and it was very much, if we want to cleave to the camping analogy, it was very much like a Boy Scout jamboree. You're expected to go out there and put your tent up, get your fire going, and um, and and quote unquote rough it as you gamed. But it very, very quickly devolved into, don't mind the guy in the $750,000 RV pulling up next to you, that
Yeah.
unfolds. And you've seen those where they like unfold into a triple wide, and there's flat screen TVs and an upstairs sauna and everything else. I feel like that is what 5e devolved into, or evolved into, unfortunately, starting around 2019, 2020. And it,
Yeah.
it just accelerated so very quickly. So getting something like this and trying to bring it at the very least back to center, was something I really enjoyed the chance to get in there and do.
So Fox of RPG asks, let me just throw that back in there for a second. How long have you been working on this setting adventure? The look and idea reminds me of Gods of the Forbidden North, in the sense it appears to be a big world full of places, things for players. Uh, Thanks, Fox. Yes. So the original, the original place it started was back in just about this time of year. I was playing in a group. We were doing a 5e thing in my friend's campaign, and a bunch of people were going out of town for Halloween. So I think there were only like three of us left. And I said, hey, I don't mind running a one shot if you guys still want to play. And I grabbed another friend, and we did a one shot, which has become the fourth chapter in this book. And it was they all had fun. And the thing is, after for the next few weeks, they're like, "Oh, well, what was that thing we were looking for? What did that do?" And eh, you know, uh, just doing a one shot, I hand waved a bunch of things, like, "Oh no, you can't have horses to go out to this countryside farmhouse," and they're like, "Why not?" And so, just on the spot, I made up. Well, it's because of that vicious beast that eviscerated almost all the horses. No one's going to give you one. So then after that, they're like, well, what was the beast? Why was it there? And then, so I'd start like writing little notes to myself. And then at some point I was like, maybe this would make a good setting. Um, and so I think I was slowly working on it, but then in 2019, I really started to put some speed on it, if you can call it speed. And then 5 years later,
Well,
I
I mean,
launched that Kickstarter last year.
and you touched on something, I think, that's super important, and that is, sometimes sometimes your players can inspire you as a designer and as a game
Mhm.
master to the most ridiculous. It's like, can I get X? No, no, they don't have that. Why? The Baron forbids it. And then the next thing you know, you're 5 sessions in, and the party has constructed this framework of why that exists. And it was
Uh,
literally just you saying, for God's sake, leave the keep. Just go to the damn caves of chaos and fight the kobolds. It's been 45 minutes. The Baron forbids it. Let's go. And they have provided you with enough grist for your idea mill that you can go, yes, you sussed it out. You clever players. It turns out the Baron was a polymorph wyvern the whole time. And they pat you on the back for your excellent originality, and you're just like, if you guys only knew. But it will build on your campaign. I think there's a tendency, particularly amongst old school DMs, and I've certainly been guilty of this myself, to curl our lips at the idea of a player bringing something to the table that might, at the very least, spice the campaign world up a little bit. You don't have to accept the 30-page backstory that
Yep.
up it, like, well, let me tell you why my half android, half tiefling fits in your Greyhawk campaign. You don't have to do that. But if your players start spitballing something and it sounds cool, there's absolutely no sin in embracing that and saying, all right, you lunatics, all right, you maniacs, that's what you think it is. I think we can do something with that. And you have taken that to the next logical step. And I mean, you went from, why can't we get horses, to, we're kickstarting Empire, the Undying Sun, guys.
Well, there were a few steps in between, but basically that was the progression. Um, yeah, so really, players inform a lot of what's going on in your world. Like, even though later I had a framework, I had test groups, and there were a lot of things that the players wanted that weren't there. So it was like, oh yeah, I really do need to add that in. Or there were things that they thought were there that weren't there, and then I really had to sit down and think of, like, okay, should they really be thinking these things? What did I do to lead them astray? Um, so, uh, in some ways, players help shape the world more than the author does.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's, I feel like, there's this great scene in a Michael Moorcock book. It's one of the early Elric novels, where there's a human hero, and it's explained that this is in the time even before Elric, and he this human hero literally walks up to the border between reality and chaos, and a demigoddess hands him a sword and armor and says, you can literally go in there and just by your sheer presence shape things. Every step you take organizes and and calms that swirling mass of chaos, and that's what he does. Aubec, the hero, walks into into this into the unknown mass of vortices of chaotic energy. And I feel like players kind of do that when you give them a little bit of lead. I feel like again, if they're not squashing your specific designs for your campaign, then give that to me. I had a player once say that he played a human fighter in my Greyhawk campaign, and he was an astronaut from Earth, and he fell through a wormhole and landed in Greyhawk. And he didn't run around saying, I'm going to invent gunpowder, and I'm going to invent, the Zippo lighter, and and electricity and this, that, and the other. He just kind of coped with the world around him as it was.
Nice.
And it didn't pave over my campaign, and it didn't upset anything to let him do that. I mean, there's this great comment in one of the original D&D booklets. Somebody out there in the audience land, check me out on this, but where Gary says, as to other things, golems, androids, whatever, we leave that up to your discretion. And that's really how it is. So I know that was a very roundabout way of addressing your question, and I hope I at least got close to giving a satisfactory answer for all the wonderful people out
Absolutely.
there in TV land.
So over here, I've got up the cover to Fairy Hill, which is a Mr. Sylvie, one of the Mr. Sylvie written modules that will be, well, this one was for VIP backers, and backers of the first campaign. If you got all the backers of the first campaign are getting this. So you have done 3.
Yes.
Fairy Hill,
Mhm.
Rat King, and the Willow Sisters. Did you want to give a quick overview of what these modules were about?
Fairy Hill is my tribute to Dunsanian fantasy. I kind of went hard in the paint on sort of my mind's eye view was like, if you take the artwork of, say, Klimt, of the design ethos of I've gone completely blank here. The not postmodern Bill. I'm getting out of my depth, Yang. It is a module. It is about fairies. It is about fey creatures. They're not drow, like they're not. You're not going to walk in and it's like, an S&M torture party, but they're also not like Tolkien's elves, where it's a hail, good fellow. Here is wine and wisdom to keep you safe. So that was what the aesthetic I went with Fairy Hill. Because they are fairies, they're not gray elves, high elves, Eldar, Sindar, and call it what you will. The Willow Sisters, was interesting because I hope this isn't too spoilery. If you want to put us on 7-second delay and dump me, but the Willow Sisters, I will say, never plays the same way twice.
Mm-hmm.
You can rerun the same group through the Willow Sisters and get different outcomes, and not just like, well, your characters succeed at the end or they fail at the end. Different adventures every time, and run it in the same campaign setting, because that's just how weird, in the classic sense of the word weird, the environs where the Willow Sisters module takes place is. And then Rat King. Rat King, I have to say, design wise, thinking first edition AD&D, aesthetic, I was drawing from my other fantasy TTRPG love, which is Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay First Edition. I wanted a noisome, disgusting, dilapidated building with bandits and were-rats and you step on a board and you get tetanus and you kick open that rotten barrel and 100 normal rats pour out and start scurrying inside your arm, stuff like that. That was the Rat King. That is an urban adventure, something I think is tragically overlooked
Yeah.
even today. That was always one thing. It's like Gary loved Conan stories and Lightmar stories. Um, why we didn't get more urban adventures out of D&D back from the get go? I kind of wish they'd set that tone immediately. But it is an urban adventure. It is in a big abandoned, well, or is it waterfront warehouse. You're going to be kicking in the door and dealing with crime gangs, and I've already hinted at the presence of were rats. So that's what that one is. And if I could just jump back a second, because I don't
Hmm.
think I gave it as much attention as the first and third one. Willow Sisters is very much a wilderness, a fey wilderness adventure, a dangerous fey wilderness adventure. Uh, there's bogs, swamps, marshes, forests, hilly areas, and it is varied, and there's lots of cool Sylvan, not Sylvie, although I did design it, Sylvan style encounters that you can have in that module, and that was just pure. If I would say, Fairy Hills, more of a Dunsany thing, and perhaps you could say more of a Lankmar influence from Rat King, then uh, I would say the Willow Sisters would probably be almost a uh, okay. Let's take the tonic from original D&D, where they say get yourself a copy of Outdoor Survival and the hex map, and do stuff with that. So that's that's what I went with.
Awesome. Yeah, let's see, campaign injections. Yeah, and so some of the other ones that are coming up. Let me make this a little bigger. So we mentioned here Rat King and the Willow Sisters by you. So I have what would be for 5e a level 10 adventure, which is Raid the Wizard's Tower. Um, there is a wizard who may or may not be friendly with you during this campaign, and this is one of the arch mages. He is one of the most powerful wizards in the world. Um, and if it's implied that if you're not going along with his plan for certain, let's say, plot points near the end of the story, he's going to have to oppose you if he thinks you are if he thinks you're against it. So this is an adventure, and of course you could plug this into any adventure. The Wizard's Tower, his own lair, is the worst possible place that you would ever want to face one, but you just might have to. And there are all sorts of crazy mind bending tricks. You enter one door and you end up in the dungeon instead of the top floor. There are things that really shouldn't be alive and animated, but are. And you will face his assistants, the invisible Gare, and his dog, which he calls a Labracadabrador, who is also magic and does not take kindly to strangers in her master's domain. So that's a lot of fun. Just trying not to get disintegrated. Um, we've got Wager at the Golden Hippo. So there's a game. I'm blanking on the name, but they played it in ancient Sumer. And it looks kind of like Americans would know the game Sorry or Parcheesi. And I found out that they played this game by rolling four-sided dice, and the dice either had the corners were either black or white. and you could move a number of spaces based on, I think it was for every black corner that was up, you got to move a space. So Wager at the Golden Hippo takes place when you were in one of the preeminent and most decadent cities in the world. Hey, Victor. And there's basically a gambling competition where the module itself plays out like you can run it either sort of like an Ocean's 11, where you are potentially raiding their vault for all the glorious treasures that are in there, and gold, of course. And sorry, one second. And or you could play it sort of like Casino Royale, because not only would you be competing against this, there are all sorts of factions who may or may not be friendly with you at this point. And this is your chance to sort of get information about them and take them out as well, should you choose to do that. So I think that's fun. Then we have the Isle of Women. And the Isle of Women is a mistake that is totally my fault. Originally, I had it as a store, like during an ocean crossing. It was just one of the random things that pirates would talk about, like sea stories. But once I said Isle of Women, all my players said, we want to go to the Isle of Women. And I was like, oh, but you only get there when you're about to die. And they're like, no, we want to go. Doesn't matter. We want to go. So I had to add that in. So the Isle of Women is it is a seafaring story where ships that are destroyed and crews that are left out in the open water, before they die, they see an island that mysteriously appears, and it has a bit of the Odyssey kind of vibes to it. So that is another fun one. We have the Haunting Wastes, which is all about desert location. So there's a point in the story where there's, should you wish to do the hex crawl, it's set up to be a big hex crawl, and it's desert, so a lot of it's kind of empty, but it has a lot of history, where 100,000 years ago or more, there were epic battles, and there are undead spirits who still wander the area. So that is a lot of fun. You will have to deal with them. The Grim Forage. So they, at one point, somewhere where you will be, there is an undead invasion. And this undead invasion, excuse me, presumably you're going to get the heck out of there if you can. But the Grim Forage is basically for people who stayed, or if your party somehow doesn't make it out. Now, there are some survivors hiding around. The elves have a village where they're trying to, who knows if it's still going to be there. You've got the areas where the Willow Sisters module take place. So maybe they have to hide in there, but eventually you got to go out and you got to get supplies, and you're looking for survivors. So it very much becomes a zombie apocalypse module in a Dungeons and Dragons ish setting. And then I have a few more people who are going to be working on modules for me. We saw Victor Gorchev. He's going to do at least one for me. And who was that? I think Fox was mentioning Gods of the Forbidden North. The author Rob Alderman, he's also going to be doing at least one module for me. So we will easily get to the lucky number 13.
Right on. That sounds very cool. And I have to say, not for nothing, I have I have kicked around the idea of running a zombie apocalypse D&D game. It's so hard to do in any edition of D&D because turn undead. It's just
Yeah.
like uh, an appropriate number of zombies to really create a zombie apocalypse merits a higher level party, because otherwise, a low level party is going to get massacred. But you get off to like fourth level, and the cleric's just holding up his holy symbol and just blasting the zombies to dust. The party can just cakewalk through the thing. So I'm interested in seeing the take on this one.
Well, one of the secrets is there are more than just straight old zombies. There are creatures which are able to resist turning undead. And there are, I don't want to give too much away, not all of them are on the land, and some of them tower above the land, if you take my meaning. So it's very much an adventure that not only is blasting the crap out of things important, but stealth and strategy is great as well.
Yeah, well, like I said, I am looking forward to it, and seeing the other adventures that came out of this. I'm, to quote Gary from when I interviewed him back once upon a time, I asked him about, how often do you go back and reread the Dungeon Master's Guide, Player's Handbook, and so on? And he said, well, the old saw about not wanting to eat your own cooking. And so I'm the same way with my adventures. I'll write an adventure and people are like, ooh, do you run this all the time? I'm like, no, hardly never. I don't even like to go back. Every once in a blue moon, I'll get a question on one of the free modules I cooked up back in the early 2000s, and people are like, oh, what about something? I'm like, I don't remember. I'm gonna have to look at it now. I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to seeing the other creators in the EOTDS space and what they've done. But I think for everyone out there, audience, all the backers, wow, look at that, $2,161, man.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, it's flying up there. But for all of you folks who are getting into this, you're just even set aside my adventures, okay? Just put those aside for a second. There's so much goodness in here. And I think if you're looking to take, whether you're a 1E player or you play wrong versions of D&D, sorry, whether you're a 1E player or you play 5E or however you're approaching this,
Except for 4E, that's forbidden.
Yeah. But you're gonna find such a different angle of approach here, yet eminently accessible, that this is going to scratch all the itches. So I heartily recommend you you check this out. It's gonna be worth your time and your money. And in case anyone thinks that's like a sop from me to like, yeah, what Yang giving you, Bill? I have been recompensed already. This is all Yang. So give it a try.
Yeah, I think overall people will enjoy it. There is somewhat of a different take than either 5e or 1e. All so back when the OGL debacle happened a few years
Whew.
ago.
Yeah.
One thing that took the extra time getting it 5 years to get this published is I said, okay, well, I really need to go through and I need to redo all the monsters because I didn't want to get sued. So
That's a good reason.
if you have a brown bear, it's going to be pretty similar to a brown bear in 5e or 1e. That's not going to be that much different. But I really got to looking back at how a lot of the creatures play. So there are certain creatures which will have different histories, especially based on their like different folkloric history. So, for example, how many? Let's say you got a troll in 1e or 5e, right? You got to damage it with fire. And that's something that everybody knows. Well, I go back to different folklore transitions where fire is not particularly, uh, it is effective, but it's not especially effective. It's not necessary. They have more of an issue with moonlight. Moonlight can turn them to stone.
Mm.
Um, Thanks, Vic. I'm waiting to see how high this Kickstarter will go before I give my price. Well, hopefully it's a lot. Yeah, so I redo some of them. The origin of the Drow, which most people don't know, they were regular elves that ran afoul of a god, and they were run out to the desert, and this god scorched them, which burned their skins black, and they found refuge in an underground ruined city that they now inhabit. So I try to keep things, respectful and um, certainly giving nods to the original materials, but a little bit different. So hopefully, even old Grognards, it won't be just like, okay, I got to get the torch for the troll. You won't quite be able to metagame like it was before. And also, I try to play up settings a little more, like if you have somebody who gets bitten when they're in the wilderness or a swamp or in the sewers, they had better be making checks. Give them have them make a disease check and see if they got one,
Mhm.
uh, because over the long term it could be debilitating. um, and different things like that. I tried to include a little bit more of the environment, which um, certainly by 5e had gotten stripped out, and by a lot of people that I've seen play 1e, they just sort of forgot about, like it's nobody's favorite part. So I try to make them a little bit more integral to the world itself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, you know me. I'm like the food critic in Ratatouille. I don't like first edition. I love first edition, and if it's not all the rules, I don't play it. Gusteau, no, not Gusteau.
Wasn't it Gustav?
The food critic.
Gustav?
I
Something
don't
with a
remember.
G, right?
It's been a long time since
Yeah.
I've seen Ratatouille, but that no that I think there's a lot of people who get hand wavy in 1E and they forget that you can make the environment just as horrible an opponent as a troll or something like that. I mean, all the conditions that you can catch a disease under an AD&D, if you rack and stack them like they're supposed to, this whole idea of, well, look, I know it's not technically a long rest, but why don't we drive wedges under the door in this room and we'll set a guard and we'll cast silence and we'll get some rest and heal up. This room first of all, this dungeon is a sewer. This room has about an inch thick layer of, let me just be polite and say, slime on the floor, and you want to sleep in it, or at least try to. Each one of you guys has got about an 20% chance of contracting some horrible disease down here, and I think DMs that leave something like that in the dirt are missing out.
Yep.
And to put something like that back in, I will hope that of the many people who are backing this, and I mean, good night. You are sitting here at
Wow, 28
20,
backers.
yeah, $2,350. Um, I hope you guys will hang on to that, and get in there, and get what's a little typhoid between friends. Go ahead and include that there. Um,
Well, and the other thing is when you stop having things like that in your game, a lot of things that players are really interested in get put by the wayside. So specifically about herbalism and medicine.
mhm,
So like, what's the point of herbing? Unless you're going to allow them to make health potions specifically, what's really the point? But if instead, people in this town are coming down with fever and chills, and they have red pustules, if your player knows how to herb, you can get them medicine for that.
mhm,
And same thing with so in Empire, there is a chapter with which I tentatively have called "Tables for Things," and it's got random tables of diseases. Some are communicable diseases that like a certain disease that came through a few years ago would have been, or the flu, or smallpox, or something like that that you just catch. And then
mhm.
there's other diseases that you get from getting bit, or dirty food. And there's a variety of diseases that will come with that. Um, and if you're including them in your campaign, as you should, it makes a lot of things a lot more interesting. So in in even in 1E, you had secondary skills, right?
Yes,
So
absolutely.
the ability to find or be able to filter water so it's clean is an amazing skill that you should have. The ability to hunt and skin your kills, to be able to eat, that is an impressive skill to have. Being able to set broken bones, which is one of the things. There's a critical fail and a critical success table to combat. So your player could end up with a broken bone or a missing limb if a monster gets a critical hit against you. So all of a sudden, all of these secondary skills become very important, which players are usually very into. Um, and it makes the world a little more alive. If you're in a world where there's like 10 billion clerics who have lesser restoration, or you know something to replace limbs, um, why would you need to know? Why would you need to pack a med kit? Why would you need to know how to make a tourniquet, or how to make bandages out of spare cloth you find?
Yes.
So, these are all things that if you're in a world where those things are relatively rare, all of these fun skills that anybody can have, because you don't need to be a cleric to be able to pack a wound full of gauze. Anybody can pick that skill up. And it also makes the rogue who knows how to poison. Well, they probably know the anti poison for that too.
Yeah. And that's one of the little nuggets in 1E, which I'm mentioning 1E because this will be compatible with 1E. And with the tweaks and adjustment this makes, dungeon masters, players, people who pick this up for 1E, you'd better get conversant with this. It is you can drink yourself healthy.
Yes.
In AD&D, you can gain a couple of hit points. You will pay the penalty in that your fighting ability will drop off considerably. But yes, well, Bob's a first level fighter. He nominally has 5 hit points. He's down to 1. All right, everybody, wineskins. Hand over your wineskins, Bob. We're gonna get you. We're gonna get you healed up. And now, that 2 hit points might seem insignificant, but that gets him almost, that gets him more than halfway up to his full potential. So, if nothing else, even if you're not putting him in the forefront, he can take another hit, versus dying in ignominy. Yeah, I think stuff like that is absolutely absolutely key to good play. And I mean, there's purported properties of gems and herbs both in the Dungeon Master's Guide for 1E. Why not let a player come up with a cure for the kidney disorder that they got?
Yeah.
Because they decided to camp out in the damn drain room in the sewer.
Absolutely.
So yeah, there's a whole lot of options for quote unquote natural healing that Undying Sun has got, and they're bolstered in 1E. So DMs, players, get ready, put your thinking caps on. It's not just going to be as simple as lay on hands, cure light wounds, remove disease,
Yeah, to me that's well, one of the things that I don't like in certain campaign settings is like you must have this class. Like you must have one fighter, you must have one thief, you must have one cleric, must have one wizard. And if you're missing one of those, then you can't get through the module, you can't accomplish the mission because there's always some one thing that only one of those has. I prefer where, maybe it's a lot easier if you have a cleric who can do cure white wounds all the time. But it's more interesting that, through packing lots of extra health potions, med kits, maybe some scrolls with cure light wounds on it, a group could make it through on their own, which, to me, let them all be bards if if it were possible. Oh, and
psionic bard.
psionics is the one thing I drew the line at. It's like, no.
Well, it's the thought that counts, Yang.
Yeah, and speaking of bards, at least 5e bards, included in those tables of diseases, yes, there are STDs for those 5e bards. Which if your players are going to make you, the DM, suffer by their shenanigans, then you should make them suffer with venereal diseases. That's just my opinion. So we've got things on there like, for example, I call it the Devil's Piss, which is basically fantasy gonorrhea, where every third round of combat, you have to relieve yourself. You have a burning need, so that will help you maybe stay on the straight and narrow a little bit more.
Yeah, there you go. I don't think we need the infamous book of erotic fantasy or anything like that necessarily.
No.
But if you need to, if you want to play the horny bard, you're going to have to deal with the consequences of it in this setting. So I think I think that's a fine approach. I need to step away for just a minute, Yang.
Sure.
So I will be right back.
All right. Hey, Victor, I sent you a link on Twitter if you're interested in popping on. But Victor here says, I like giving options. It's a bit easier in modern settings, I suppose. If you don't have a thief to open a door, you still might have a bit of C4. It's just much louder. Yeah, see, that's the thing. Maybe you got a barbarian who's really strong, or maybe they have a hammer that does extra damage to inanimate objects. Um, there are plenty of ways around that. I try not to have only one solution to any puzzle problem or situation. It's just one is probably going to be a lot better for you. The other one is going to maybe give you more consequences. Thank you, damn bastard. Yeah, well, it is a horror campaign, and a lot of times players make their own horror. So you got to have consequences. There's other diseases with body parts falling off. I'll leave that to your imagination, which ones. But yeah, um, don't be that bard. That's my that's my uh, that's my take on that. All right. So let's go back. So I've mentioned it in a few places. I try to bring back the old feel, uh, like you have hex crawls and excuse me, and dungeon maps that you've got to go through. But I do try to make them optional. I do give suggestions, like, look, if your group really hates hex crawls, okay, have them do some combat in the area so they get a flavor of the creatures and the at least the perceived danger. And then you just as you're going along, you just sort of drop it off a little bit. It is up to you. There is a calendaring system where certain events which are well above the player's pay grades um, are going to happen on certain dates. So if you are a one-to-one time kind of guy, this is a great campaign setting for you to do that. You could have, excuse me, you could have one party that's out doing sort of the main campaign activities when they're off traveling to get to wherever they need to be. You can have the secondary group engaged in skullduggery in towns and in cities, or getting more involved with some of the factions. And also, if you're a Bronstein kind of guy, all right, let's see here. Hey, we have Victor
Hi.
Gorchev, the Scrying Dutchman.
Yeah. I still like that
Um,
name. I think it's clever.
yeah, for sure, especially for a dungeon, for fantasy tabletop role playing game crowd.
Well, the funny thing is that I took that name and I haven't written a single actual pure fantasy game yet. But whatever. I'll get
One
around to
day,
it eventually.
one day.
Yeah.
So just talking a little bit about variability in play styles in games, which I know how I would run this game. I know the kind of game I want to play in, but if you're the kind of person who says, well, I don't want to play it in one-to-one time, I want to we kind of want to just get through the main plot points and go through the adventure faster. I think that's a legitimate way to play.
Yeah.
It's not my preference, but no problem. Based on you and your table, that might be it. You could be a guy in your 30s with a wife and kids, and you only get to play once a month. So maybe you want things to move a little faster. I personally have no problem with that, and
Yeah.
I appreciate when systems sort of when they sort of acknowledge that even if it wasn't designed with that intention, like, hey, if you want to do it that way, here's some tips.
Yeah, I agree. I like them to be modular. That's what they call modules, right? They have to be modular, including to different playstyles.
Absolutely. So yeah, and I think it's nice. You should, in my opinion, there should be the gamut from, some people like that Dragonlance hopping on the train type of experience. Well, okay, we got something for you. But sandboxers, we got stuff for you as well. Or so my opinion goes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, when I the modules that I wrote, I mean, a dungeon crawl tends to be somewhat linear. I mean, there can be many paths, but at the end of the day, you're in a monster-filled underground shopping mall, right? And you take that for what it's worth, but it's like I tell people about my Monday night AD&D game with Against the Giants. The party is under no legal obligation to stay there. They could literally say, you know what? Fuck these fire giants. They're kicking our asses. We want to go back and explore Castle Greyhawk. We hear there's something going on at the Temple of Elemental Evil. We want to check that out. They can leave. They can, to quote the Doom YouTuber Decino, you can just leave. They can walk away from that. So I didn't want to include anything like, oh no, when you enter this dungeon, the door magically seals behind you and you have to walk on this, So I think even to a degree, a dungeon can be sandboxy, depending on how your party wants to approach it. If there's multiple entrances and so on and etc. So I didn't, I tried not to put any severe rails in the dungeon stuff, and the Empire of the Undying Sun setting, as you say, Yang. I think it serves both approaches. I would certainly take it as a sandbox myself when running it. I mean, that is how I would run it. I'm not saying, well, everyone should run it as a sandbox. Maybe that's not your jam. And if it's not, then it suits the more linear method just as well.
Yeah, I think writers, authors of modules, one of the best things that they can do for the DM is sort of get out of the way. Like, here's this thing, here's this thing, here's that thing. Go for it.
Yep.
I do that with my game design in general, kind of. Like I'm not really a rule zero guy. Like I wouldn't say that, but I do like giving options. Like I don't know. Final.
Yeah, I think it works best when also if the player, I mean, there's only so much that the players can bend the game. If all of a sudden they want to run a coffee shop, you just might be playing the wrong game. But there's a lot of different things that they could prefer in the game, and I like it when there's options in your campaign setting that really enable the DM to be like, all right, we'll you're enjoying the murder hobo thing, let's go with that.
Yeah, pretty much.
So gentlemen, how much wargaming do you have in your campaigns?
None at all, really, because I'm not really a wargamer. So I'm still only just kind of like dipping my toes into that. So
yeah,
it depends on the game. Games that I have going on right now, probably not much, but in the past when I played Fossa's Mech Warrior RPG, I mean, that it's baked into it, right? The game started as a war game, albeit a beer and pretzels tactical war game. And then they kind of bolted an RPG on system a couple of years later. So yeah, if I sit down and somebody wants me to run something like that, or Heavy Gear, or Twilight 2000 is another great example. It has wargame rules built into it. I'll do it and have done it in a heartbeat. When it comes to fantasy gaming, I'm just starting to get my feet wet with chainmail and swords and spells, because I'm not saying it's good and I'm not saying you should, but I have run AD&D games where, okay, I am keeping track of 300 goblins while the players, my 8, 9, 10, 11 players each run their characters and any supporting NPCs with them. So I find it is much, much easier to do the fire and maneuver of a war game. So in the future, I won't shy away from, all right, let's roll for a random wilderness encounter. Okay, they did have one. Okay, it's humanoids. Okay, it's orcs. Okay, it's 187. I'm not going to just kind of look up from the DM screen and go, no, there's no encounter today. No, you guys didn't encounter anything. Moving right along. So I'm ready to embrace it.
All right. So Michael Dale asks, we'll get back to wargaming in a second. Delver, how deep did you immerse yourself in Yang's setting lore before writing the adventures? Yang, how much input did you have in the modules?
Well, I'll go first, if that's okay, Yang.
Mm-hmm.
I very much immerse myself in the lore. I didn't say, look, it's a bunch of goblins, just do whatever. I placed them. I made sure they fit when I would run sections by Yang, where it's like, yeah, there's not really going to be, a case for a gelatinous cube here, because in this campaign world, whatever. Okay, then we don't do that. I was very conscientious about what I was writing into the adventure and how that fit Yang's lore, and didn't just say, hey, I don't care if your campaign setting doesn't have beholders, Yang, deal with it. There's a beholder in there now. You fix it if you want it fixed. No, I was I tried to be as canonical as possible to Yang's setting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how much input did I have in the modules? Well, I handed over. I don't remember if I handed over the actual play chapters, but I'm sure I handed over the chapters that I had at the time for like descriptions of the areas and basically about the world in general. And then for me, it's, if I have someone writing for me, I want them to write something. The only thing is, when they'll run it by me, I might give some input like let's say Fairy Hill. Like fairies are not a common thing. They're commonly believed, but like no one's ever seen one. It's like that. It's like our world. Lots of people believe in Bigfoot. No one's got a picture. So like, okay, work with that. And then the only other thing that I did directly is at the beginning of each module, I have just a quick paragraph of if you're using this module with the Empire of the Undying Sun game system, as opposed to putting it in your own campaign, then it's recommended to have this adventure between such and such dates, because it fits in where the characters should be level wise and location wise. Otherwise, it might be a weird setting, like if you have ghosts in the desert, but the characters aren't in the desert, then it's kind of a weird,
Yeah.
a weird mix.
Yeah. Now, once I, take the job and write an adventure for you, I'll definitely want to immerse myself into your setting and just the world in general, so I know what I'm doing. So I'm not just doing completely something off the wall. Plus, I don't like flailing around. Like I want to have a direction.
Yeah, like, I didn't really tell Bill, like, hey, Bill, why don't you write a story about this or
Yeah.
like that? If I wanted that, I just write it myself.
Yeah. I also
It's
don't want to like copy. Like I also don't want to do something like that somebody else has already done. Like if I have
yeah,
like an idea and it's like, oh well, module 4 actually already handles something like that. Like oh well.
yeah. But luckily the world is rather large. There's
Yeah.
a lot of characters in it. There's a lot of factions in it, a lot of things to draw from. So I think for the people who are helping me to write these modules, I think that they can really put a lot of themselves in it, and is the modules don't have to tonally be like the modules that I write,
Mhm.
um, as long as they feel like they fit in the same world.
Yeah.
So, for example, Fairy Hill does not involve zombies eating people. And that's fine. It doesn't have to. Um, you know, but it still fits within the world itself. And it, sort of, there's indications of bad things are coming. Um, so it works perfectly.
Yeah.
Sort of getting back to wargaming just a little bit. I'm curious if you fellas think we are sort of due for a resurgence in wargaming. So I don't necessarily mean full on 40K. You got to spend $80,000 on miniatures to play these kind of things, but just in terms of the concept that at some point your players aren't newbies anymore. They're not like the losers that got to go on quest because nobody
Yeah.
better could get on them. At some point your characters are going to be well respected in some area. You'll have people who want to follow them, and there will be sort of larger conflicts that can't be dealt with just by one party.
Yeah.
And I think that that is something that's really kind of missing in a lot of modern fantasy games. Is like either the players should be raising armies or they're set in command of a certain part of an army of a country, or they're leading, they're training up the peasants to fight for themselves. Or do you think maybe that's coming back?
Okay, so this is completely anecdotal because again, I'm not
Mhm.
really a war gamer. Like I've never played Warhammer or anything because it was way too expensive when I was growing up. I
Yeah.
didn't have the money for that. But just in our little like OSR-ish corner, I guess I am seeing a little bit of a resurgence in it. X2 has like obviously has like a big wargaming component to it. Like
Mhm.
that's like it's part of the title even. I know Whitebox, TPE, the Basic Experts Whitebox. He's putting some wargaming elements in that, like mixing in chainmail with 0E. And there's like a bunch of other stuff like that. Alchemic Wakers, his thing that he put out, what was it, the Lords of Woon, something like I can't
Mhm.
remember the title exactly. And he also did his basically like a chainmail clone for Shadow Dog that's really popular. So I am seeing a little bit of a resurgence as far as like I said, our little corner goes, because for the longest time there was more of that modcore feeling where it's like, yeah, we're like level 3, we're just like we're doing like dungeon delves and then we die. Okay, time to like make a new character, and you never get to like that domain play like aspect, and I think that's getting more popular again. So
Yeah, I think so. I think that there's, somewhat of a everything old becomes new again.
yeah,
But it's more like it's an itch that's not being scratched anywhere else,
yeah,
sort of a thing. The thing I like about especially the older game sets, the OSR stuff, is that campaigns happened over a longer time.
mhm,
So the build up to you becoming an important member in your community, whether you become nobility, whether you become like, oh my God, that's the knight that took out that giant. It makes a lot more sense and it feels a lot more earned than than some of these other game systems now that are going towards shorter campaigns. So I'm kind of wondering if more of the old school play style will come back, including wargaming.
Yeah.
And then maybe even with that having more Braunstein or like intergroup play. So
Yeah.
like if we're all playing in Empire of the Undying Sun and all three of us are DMing games, maybe my game starts in South Bay, but maybe Victor starts over in the Empire, and the Dungeon Delver he's starting on like a pirate crew.
Yeah.
And then like maybe having those worlds kind of sort of overlap, like they used to do back in the chainmail OD&D days.
I think there's a subset of fantasy gamers who are embracing that. I don't know that there's a resurgence of it outside the OSR corner. I think it's a new, and this is not necessarily a negative term when I frame it this way, but I think it's a new fad to do the Braunstein sort of thing, just like it was a fad to say, I'm going to write an adventure and I'm going to circulate it around on Google Plus. If you guys remember that crowd back in the early 2010s, and it's going to incorporate every aspect of every book from Appendix N. Or there's the other fad of, I'm going to make my OD&D clone as weird and bizarre as you won't fight orcs, you'll fight worm men. They're men made of clusters of worms, and they came from the reactor room of the Starship Enterprise, which crashed on this world that's shaped like a pig's head. Just so many aspects of weird being plowed in there. And I think what we're seeing now with domain level play, Braunstein, and that sort of thing, I think that is a new old fad. It's something that's being rediscovered, and I think it's a good thing. Don't misunderstand me. I think the word fad gets a lot of bad connotations thrown onto it, but I mean, hey, what was Led Zeppelin? Well, they were a boy band. They were a faddish boy band in the 1970s, and they're a cornerstone of rock and roll, right?
Well, it's like younger people kind of rediscovering it though, like Ginger Harmony. She's like what, in her 30s. The basic expert is like in his 30s. I'm only like, I'd only just turned 41, so I'm not that old compared to some people either.
I mean, Matthew Tapp, Barrows and Borderlands. The guy, I literally, I'm not making this up. I literally have shoes older than him. He's 26 and he's out there throwing out OD&D clones, and I'm on his Discord. He's got like 100 people playing his open Braunstein table, and it does include those wargaming elements. So this came up in a thread on Twitter, about OD&D was great and chainmail was fine, but I would never recommend anyone play them today. You should play this new clone. No, there's nothing wrong with chainmail. It's a little clunkily worded, but that's not some huge impassable, black gate leading into Mordor that you'll never get past. It's a perfectly workable war game, and I'm seeing amongst our peers more embracing of that. And it's the new fad, and I think it's great. Now, what does that mean outside of our own little pond? Does it splash over into others, and other people kind of take it and run with it?
To a degree,
question.
Because I have seen more mainstream like YouTubers, like one with some of the ideas. Kelsey, like I wouldn't say she's like not like some kind of like OSR person. Obviously she is, but she did bring like that whole the West Marches, like the Braunstein thing, like more into the mainstream with her
Sure.
recent Kickstarter and stuff like that. So
Sure, absolutely.
yeah, there are people that are kind of like getting a note there. I know what was it, Runehammer, I think, was like talking about stuff recently, like, so yeah.
Yeah, and I wonder too if, you know, now we're maybe primed to have more success with those kind of games, you know, especially collaborations between different groups of players. You know, Gary and Fred and those guys back in the day, they lived, you know, within a few hours drive of different cities where they would have different clubs, you know, and playing the same thing. But even then, like, either you had to make an expensive long distance phone call, or you had to send a letter, which would take, you know, back then the mail was a lot slower, you know, might take a week, or you know, you had to physically drive there to talk to someone to find out what exactly happened. Whereas now, you know, with a Discord server, you could just post the updates for what happened, you know, and even have like a private DMs chat. So the DMs are just telling each other what's going on in their worlds. I think it makes it way easier to run those kind of games than it was back in the day.
Yeah, I don't know. I just know a lot of like people around my age, like, you know, the millennial quote, because I'm technically a millennial, or, you know, a zennial, people some call it. But like, I don't know, there's a lot of people that kind of like delving into the old games and doing their own research. They're not just going off of the word of like, you know, I've been playing for 40 years, like, quote. You know, no offense, but like they're kind of doing their own research, they're reading the games for themselves, and they're coming to their own conclusions, and you know, they're running with that, and I think that's interesting. And there's a lot of people that appreciate that, a lot of older people that appreciate that, and then there's also a lot of ones that completely hate it and they'll come after you. But you know, that's just the age-old generational clash, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's great if you can play correctly for 40 years, but I think all of us have seen people who, you know, they're using rules and mechanics incorrectly for 40 years,
Yeah, well,
which can create a big problem.
I mean, you both might have seen the meme that I made go viral, with the Shogun meme.
I
Where it
know.
was like,
That is exactly what I was thinking.
yeah, tell your lord that I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons for 40 years. The Ungin says he hasn't read the rules since he was 12. And for some reason that went completely viral. It like showed up on Reddit everywhere, on iFunny. But people have like showed it back to me. It's like, look, Vic, this funny meme. I was like, yeah, I know. that's mine.
I love it when memes come back to me. And
Yeah.
people are like, "Hey, have you ever seen the Tomb of Horrors Do Not Dive Here meme?" And I'm like, "Yes, I created it in May 2017."
Yeah. Yeah. But that was kind of a reaction to those kinds of people that are like that just kind of try to brush off us younger guys. Like, I've been playing for 40 years, you know, and you know, as an argument, it's like, yeah, but it says right here in the book, like, you have to do it like this. Well, we didn't do it like that. It's like, yeah, well, you did it wrong then. I'm sorry. Like, age doesn't make you automatically correct.
No, you are absolutely 100% correct. There's, you know, I have quoted. I'm not going to name names. We are here to praise Yang's Kickstarter, which you and I both worked on. So we're not going to get on the drama llama mountain path. But I have said to TSR veterans, this I am sitting here holding a Dungeon Master's Guide. It says this.
Yeah.
And the response, the very angry response before they end the conversation immediately, usually by blocking me or no longer responding at any rate, was something along the lines of, well, Gary never played. We never played that way. We didn't do that at Gary's table, and that was just something, you know, that like all the people who bought into the rules as written stuff were just suckers, and that's what Gary said. Because really, I was privileged enough to work with Gary for a few years, and those words never came out of his mouth.
Yeah.
You know,
like, I bought this book for like $50 or whatever. Like, I'm interested what it says in the book. I'm not really interested in this folklore of like what Gary did at his table in 1982. I wasn't there. Like, I wasn't one of the guys at the table, so that means nothing to me. What means
Yeah.
to me is what it says in the book that I just paid good money for. So, I mean, simple as that.
So Michael Dale has a question. How did you start the project? Did you have certain theme in mind? Did you create a world map first, if at all? So I talked a little bit about it earlier in the show, but just to review real quick, it started as a one shot that people kept asking me questions about long after we had played it, and I just started writing down and making up responses for why things were the way that they were, and then after a few months of people asking me about something we did one day for like 4 hours, I said, maybe there's something here. Maybe I should continue this out. So then I was slowly working on it for about 2 years until 2019, when I really started putting a lot of effort into it. Things went horribly wrong with COVID the next year, which made me extra busy. But I was working on it. Did I have themes in mind? Yes. So the main theme I wanted to make a campaign setting that I would want to play games in. Things that I like, that some of them I thought were lacking, especially in the stuff that was coming out of 5e by that point, and other stuff that, like, yes, this is done well, but more. So there's that. And then somebody told me that you couldn't really write horror in 5e or Dungeons and Dragons at all. So I said, challenge accepted.
Yeah.
And I mean, certainly there's Ravenloft, Barovia setting. I mean, that's a kind of horror.
Yeah.
If you like that Universal movie type stuff, I think it's great. Romantic type heroes. It's
Yeah.
a very, very nice setting. So something I didn't realize that I was doing when I started was I didn't realize I was doing American horror until I was writing things like piecemeal, this and that, and when it got together, I finally took a look at it and I was like, okay, so there's some zombies, things from beyond the stars, okay, and then I realized, like, oh, these are very American themed
Yeah,
type
like
horror settings.
Lovecraft,
Yeah,
Romero.
yeah, exactly. And there's like very much early colonial American history. Like, there's
Mhm.
something in the woods. They
Mhm.
thought that the woods were dark places full of heathens waiting to steal their souls. It's like, yes, I can use that. I
Yeah.
can make that
I
work.
mean, to be fair, we Europeans did that too for like thousands of years, but yeah.
Sure,
But
sure.
we had slightly different monsters.
Yeah, absolutely. So and then once I did solidify on, like, okay, yes, this is a horror specific campaign, then I really start to delve into, like, well, what makes something horror versus like dark fantasy, or what would be the difference between a heroic fantasy campaign versus a horror campaign, where your characters can still be heroes in the middle of a horror campaign, but there's just different expectations in different settings, and different aspects that you would expect out of horror, and that you will tolerate as a player and a DM out of horror, that you wouldn't tolerate in other types of settings.
Yeah.
And did I create a world map first? No, the world map came much later. And actually, so I very poorly started doing test groups where again, the same group that I did the original one shot for, during COVID, the guy who was DMing, he's like, I'm burned out, I can't do this anymore. And I was like, hey, I got a setting, if you guys want to start testing this. And so that's when I was like, oh crap, well, I need a map. or they're not going to know where anything is. So then I started mapping things out, and that's where all of that came from. And Michael also wants to know how did Vic get involved, and are there guns in his contribution?
Well, I haven't written anything yet. We've only just talked about it. But I would love to. Yeah, I'm more than willing. I do have my own projects that I need to get through, but I figure you have at least a little bit time because you said you have to write like 13 modules or something. So if there's guns in there, like I don't know, if the setting has guns, I'll gladly put in like some black powder stuff in there. Like I don't care. But if it doesn't, then I'm not gonna like shoehorn it in there. Like I'm not that kind of guy. I mean, I have my own niche as far as like games I make, but that's not all that I'm about. Like I do love like pure fantasy and like all that stuff as well. So
so there are no guns. However, the setting is pretty much like right before the industrial. One of the countries is like just pre-industrial revolution, and they have certain things like water clocks and things like that. So and there is also a faction called the Brethren of the Wheel, or the Brotherhood of the Wheel, which they are tinkerers, that somewhat combine high science, which science is considered a kind of magic in this world. When they combine that and on the down low, they'll try to throw in arcane things. So you never know, you might find some interesting things. There will not be, no one's going to pull out an M60 in Empire of the Undying Sun, but will there be things that fire?
I mean, I pledged for the 5e versions, and I did write a 5e modern supplement, so nothing's stopping me from putting in them 60s. I'm just saying. Yeah, you mentioned the Brotherhood of the Wheel, and just completely off a random tangent. I've actually been reading a book series that's called exactly that, but they're like modern Templars that protect like the roadways, like they protect like the highways. So it's like truckers and taxi drivers and like highway patrolmen and stuff, but they work for like the Knights Templars, and they like kill like monsters and serial killers and stuff along the highways. It's pretty fun.
Excellent. I might have to check that out when I'm done. I'm kind of on a book diet right now. Like when I'm writing this stuff, it's like no, I can't risk like getting too influenced by other people's things right now, not this late in the game. And also, if I did, I'd probably be like, oh, well, I could just rewrite a third of this whole thing. And like, no.
Yeah, I get you. I'm not that way with novels. Like novels, I'll take inspiration from like whenever, but I do avoid certain other tabletop games when I'm working on stuff. So if I'm like working on like a cyberpunk thing, like people were like telling me like, hey, check out Cities Without Number, Vic, and I'm like, no, I don't want to. I don't want to like look at Kevin Crawford's like probably way superior stuff and then just like be like, ah, fuck, like mine's like way worse than this. So
yeah, that is something like same thing, and it's any other influences too. It's like if I'm sitting down to do some writing, some fantasy TTRPG writing, yeah, the Tolkien, the Leiber, the Howard, whoever, all that stuff's got to get put on the shelf, because if I'm cracking a copy of some Clark Ashton Smith or whoever in between writing sessions, it's gonna seep in. I can't stop it, and maybe I catch it, maybe I don't, but I certainly don't want to get out there with like, hey, you realize this thing you're describing is exactly precisely X from this book. Now, I think it's fine to do tributes, but know that you're doing them, understand that you are doing them. I mean, I've straight up lifted stuff out of Moorcock and stuck in my private 1E games on Monday night, and the party gets a kick out of, I think they had more fun trying to say the name of the wizard in the Vanishing Tower from Moorcock, and it's Volodion Gagnashtiak, trying to say that than they did actually running the adventure. But so I'm the same as you, Victor. I gotta set this stuff aside, whether it's
Yeah.
ttrpgs or whether it's a fiction, a work
Yeah.
of fiction.
Well, like I said, I'll still read fiction, but I might I might avoid the more obvious, like the more obvious influences, like you said, like Tolkien and fucking Howard and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like if I'm working on my modern stuff, I'll gladly read like some spy novel from like a lesser known author or whatever, and then like the character does something. I'm like, oh, I could translate that into like a cool like class ability or like something like that. So I'll do that, but. I'll avoid tabletop games for the most part, though.
Yeah, and I think that there is a big difference too. If you're just blatantly stealing parts of other people's work for your own private tabletop enjoyment,
Yeah,
I think that's one thing. Versus like I'm going to publish something. You shouldn't.
yeah. Unless you're
Just
blatant, unless it's
take.
like a
Yeah,
blatant homage. Like I
yeah,
love
yeah.
putting in little like homages and like stuff like that. But yeah, I'm not gonna like take something and then try to pass it off as my own. Like if I'm referencing Conan, it's gonna be pretty obvious that I'm referencing Conan because it's like, oh, there's like an elephant thing in a tower. Like, ooh, where's this from? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Have you guys ever had when you're working on something, somebody else you'll find like in a TV show or a movie or maybe somebody else's game that after you've started working on it, this thing comes out and it's like, crap, I wrote
Oh,
that same thing.
constantly. That happened to me
Yeah.
with Bright. Like Bright when that came out. Like I've been
Mhm.
working on this working on this modern like fantasy like mashup for probably like 2 decades now. Like it started as just like role playing campaigns, like freeform role playing, and all this stuff. It was kind of like more inspired by Alienation when I first
Mhm.
started. And then Bright came out, and it was pretty much like all that. So then after that, every time I mentioned my thing, people were like, "Oh, like Bright." I'm like, yeah, it's like Bright. So now I just kind of like lean into it, and I'm like, that's just one of my first like references. Like, yeah, it's like Bright, because just to kind of like head them off. But yeah, that definitely happened to me, and more than once. I remember back when in my freeform role playing days, I had a bounty hunter character named Django, and he was based on the original Django, like the spaghetti western Django, which was like this obscure like movie that nobody knew back then, except like me as like a weird European that loved spaghetti westerns. And then Star Wars came out with Django Fett, and everyone's like, "Oh, like Django Fett." So I just had to change his name because a bounty hunter named Django was a bit too on the nose then. So
I have to relate this. If you know anything about the BattleTech universe,
Mhm.
the back of the sugar packet version is the Star League collapsed because the marshal of the Star League army that was basically keeping the peace over all the warring factions said, you sons of bitches are never going to get along. I am literally leaving the galaxy. I am taking my armies, I am taking my factories, I am taking like the citizens, and we are trucking out of here. We're gone. And then 300 years of horrible, like civilization destroying civil
yeah,
war ensues between these houses. Well, it was hinted for years in the BattleTech lore that this guy General Kerensky was going to lead his armies back. There were all these little Easter eggs and tantalizing hints that people would find out on the very edge of the inner sphere. Like, oh, who are these people? What are these strange signals we're getting? And I ran a BattleTech campaign one summer. I wrote out all my notes about how General Kerensky's forces were coming back to the inner sphere. They were going to reestablish law and order. They were going to rediscover all these lost technologies. And I was like, this is going to be really cool. And like 2 months later, FOSSA started publishing that storyline.
yeah.
They literally published most of what I was going to do.
Yeah, yeah. No, like I said, it happens to me all the time, and it's a bit frustrating. But eventually, I just kind of lean into it, especially if it turns out to be like a popular thing. Then I was like, oh, well, might as well just attach my stuff to it, I guess.
Yeah, I've got one part. There's the Black Pyramid, which is a mega dungeon, and part of it is you do end up trapped in there, more or less. You'll end up trapped in there. And one of the things about the pyramid is, it's inside a friggin' pyramid, so there's no artificial sun. There's no food, and there are many groups over the years who get trapped in there. And so some of them turn to cannibalism. But I had this one group that has a lot of druids, and they were able to plant crops because they can make artificial sun. They have a little bit of dirt, and they turn them into golems, the dirt into golems, so that it can protect itself if other people try to raid their area. And then this stupid show, Delicious in Dungeon,
I knew
Yeah.
as
had
soon
the
as you started
same
talking about
friggin' thing.
garden golems, I was like, I know what he's gonna
Yeah.
say.
And that was like 3 or 4 years after I wrote that. I was like, mother
Yeah.
effer.
I had a setting where it was like this giant like colony ship that had all these bases that were basically like environments, like a desert and like just and like it was like so long ago that the people living on it forgot that they were actually on a colony ship. So to them that was like their whole world, and like all the weird technology that was underneath it was just like forbidden to them and like all this stuff. And then I think it was that Seth, what's the Family Guy guy, his Star Trek.
Seth MacFarlane.
Yeah, his Star Trek knockoff did like an episode that was basically just exactly that. I'm like,
Well, I mean that's
Yeah.
Metamorphosis Alpha.
no, you see, I've never heard of that. So
Yeah, that Jim Ward wrote the first science fiction
Yeah.
role-playing game for TSR, and it was called Metamorphosis Alpha. There was a TV show prior to that starred Keir Dalia, who
Yeah.
played Dave Bowman, called The Star Lost. So you're in good company, my
Yeah.
friend, I guess is
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
I mean, I'm not saying that it was like entirely original. Obviously, like everything has been done before, including my modern fantasy stuff. But when something comes out that's like so like blatantly like pop culture, like, and then the normies catch wind of it, it is it is a little bit frustrating. So that's what happened to me with Bright, like I said.
So Michael Dale asks, how taboo would it be to file the serial numbers off of and rename a classic module that really nailed a monumental play style? How old would it have to be okay? Complete unattainium. Are you talking about to play in Empire of the Undying Sun? Yeah, go for it. I think it's perfectly fine to mix and match stuff like that. If it's your private game, you're setting the world, you're setting the table. Take a little of everything. If you don't like the Empire of the Undying Sun setting, but you think the whole Dream Realm thing is cool, yeah, go for it. Take that and plop it into your own campaign.
Yeah.
If you're talking about to publish, maybe not.
Yeah, I wonder if he means just like changing the name on like Keep on the Borderlands and some details and then republishing it. Like I don't know. I think it's fine to pay homage to that because my Modern Necessities adventure that was part of the stretch goals is it's called Bunker in the Badlands, and it's basically going to be like my like weird magical post-apocalypse take on Keep on the Borderlands. But I'm not just gonna like take the text verbatim. It's gonna be an obvious homage, but it's still gonna be my own thing.
Yeah, I think with anything you do, you have to bring enough of your own writing, your own style, your own perspective onto something. Whereas, like, I think it's fine to make something that's like Keep on the Borderland. But if you're talking about filing off the serial numbers, like I'm just going to copy it and like erase where it says TSR and put my company's name, that's a no-no. But I think the idea is great, and put your own take on it to make it better for a certain setting or different enough that people feel like they're playing a new game. Got no problem with that. So let's see. Wow. 40 backers and $3,400.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
Congrats.
So we're more than the total of my first campaign, and with the 40 backers, I think we're like 4 shy of the last one.
It's that Delver effect, you know. I don't like to brag, but that's what's going on there. It's scientifically proven. I'm just kidding you, man. No, it's you. It's all you. It's a gorgeous product.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
this is gonna be kick-ass, guys. Get in on this.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll. It feels real late for some reason, probably because I've been up forever. But it's only 6
Yeah.
p.m. It's only been live for about 2 hours now, so
Yeah.
that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's good.
Yep. Yang, I'm gonna have to step away for a bit. I've got I've got live streaming stuff happening myself tonight. And I don't want to step on you, but
well, I think we're probably gonna wind this one up here. We've been here 2 hours, and so for anyone who is interested, you can see on his label there at the Dungeon Delver. It's Wednesday. What do you got for the Wednesday night stream?
Tonight I am doing the big reveal of the 2025 holiday gift giveaway for the channel members on YouTube. You can become a channel member for as little as $1.99, or our patrons over on Patreon. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month, and that makes you eligible for the drawing for the 2025 holiday gift, which has been a mystery. I've kept it under wraps so far, and I'm going to reveal it here in just a little more than an hour. You guys will see what it is, and for $2, for $2, if you join me as a patron until the end of December, no later than October 31st, or $3.98 if you join me as a YouTube member for the same period, your hat is thrown in the ring to potentially win one of these 4 TTRPG items. And believe me, tune in. You're gonna want to see it. You're gonna want to see it.
And I know what they are, and they are pretty impressive. You should definitely check it out. For anyone who's interested, I just posted a link in the chat that should appear on YouTube and Rumble.
Thank you very much, Yang. And I am going to do a secret reveal. I'm holding it up in front of my camera right now. My camera's not turned on, but I am holding it up in front of it.
Yeah.
But yes, that will be at 7:00. Myself and a couple of special guests tonight to reveal that, and I am dropping a reveal video at the same time because I know there's people who think my channel is inactive because I don't post a video every week. So I'm doing a standalone video and I'm doing the live stream, and it's going to be fun. So
nice. Vic, are you appearing anywhere?
Well, I did stream with the Basic Expert already earlier because he was just wrapping up his own Kickstarter, which was very successful. So I'm happy for that. We did the stream a little bit earlier than usual. Otherwise, no, probably not. not until the next natural ones next week. I used to be all over the place stream wise, but I've kind of like got back. Yeah, so no, I'm probably not going to appear anywhere unless somebody randomly invites me and I'm like bored, and I'll be like, yeah, I'll pop on. But
nice. Yeah, and here's throw the link to that show. It is done. It is not live, so go ahead and watch that anytime. Yeah. And as for me, October is going to be a busy month. Starting tomorrow, we're going to have a lot of guests. We're going to be talking about horror. Thursday the 2nd, I've got comic book author Vaughn Klaus. We're going to be talking about writing horror in comics. Next week on the 7th, I've got Alterna Comics publisher Peter Samedi. We're actually going to be talking about folklore and sort of the small stories that give a lot of flavor to countries and regions. On the 8th, next Wednesday, I've got Jay Ashiro Finney coming at 8 o'clock. We are going to talk about aliens and horror. The horror of aliens, perhaps, and what they might do to certain body parts of yours. Monday the 13th, I have Fabrizio Aiello. He's coming on. We're going to be talking about horror in art throughout the ages. 14th, Dunder Moose will be on. We'll be talking about Appendix N. We're gonna talk about the original, and we're gonna talk about what horror sources should we add to an updated Appendix N. Thursday the 16th, I've got Kat Rocha, aka the Night Editor. We will be talking about ancient religions, cults, and witchcraft. The 20th, I will be on Jack's channel talking about Empire. The 22nd, Vic will be back. We're going to talk about differences between American and European horror and writing horror for more modern settings as opposed to classic fantasy whatnots. The 23rd, Rob from Pulp Hummock Press, publisher of Gods of the Forbidden North. He will be on, and we're going to talk about using horror in tabletop role-playing games, using/writing it. The 29th, the man, the legend, Doomsword. He will be back, and he'll be talking about running classic 1E monsters for their maximum horror effect. And on the 30th, the night of the 30th, the morning of the 31st, at the witching hour, I have a group of people who will be on to be announced later. We will be doing our top 10 HP Lovecraft stories.
Speaking of HPL, don't forget Fridays, Yang.
Oh, that's right. And on Fridays at 9 p.m. on the Dungeon Delvers channel, this week, an extra long game session, 5 weeks of Call of Cthulhu.
That's right.
Nice.
That's right. All right.
I've yet to play that.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
Gents, I'm going to dip on out of here. Yang, thank you so much. And everybody out there, get in on this. It is currently sitting at just a skosh under $3,500. Yang, good luck to you, man. You deserve every bit of it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for coming, Dungeon Delver. Thanks, Vic, for coming.
You're welcome.
And thank you, everyone in the chat. And Michael, if you're still listening, watch the beginning of the stream. I used your song. So thanks, everyone. And